Hi everyone, today's video is aimed at beginner radio enthusiasts. And in this video, we'll look at 5 simple circuits and explain how they work, just like in the good old days. If anyone wants to try them out, you'll find a project archive with all the schematics and printed circuit boards in the description of this video. The first circuit is an almost everlasting relay for turn signals. Just 2 transistors and a few small components. The main advantage of this circuit is that it's solid state. So, issues with burnt contacts are simply impossible here. The power section uses a powerful MOSFET transistor, which handles switching the load. In fact, it's an asymmetric multivibrator. At the start of the process, the specified capacitor is charged through the diode. At the same time, the second capacitor is charged through a resistor, and as soon as the voltage across it reaches about 0.6 to 0.7 volts, which is the threshold for turning on silicon transistors, the bipolar transistor will activate. Through the open junction of this transistor, a positive signal will be sent to the gate of the MOSFET, causing it to activate. And once the MOSFET is open, power will flow to the load. Next, through the open MOSFET in the specified circuit, the second capacitor will begin to charge with reverse polarity. While the charging current is high, the transistors will operate in saturation mode, and the MOSFET hardly heats up, since in this state it has a very low on-state channel resistance. Gradually, a positive potential appears at the base of the transistor, and it increases. At a certain point, this potential will be enough to shut off the transistor. After that, the MOSFET transistor will also shut off, thanks to the resistor pulling its gate to ground. The operating frequency of the flasher depends on the resistance of the charging resistor and the capacitance of the specified capacitor. The next circuit is a PWM controller for the speed of low-voltage brushed motors. Yes, it's easier to build such circuits using a 555 timer, but our circuit is purely for familiarization and studying the operating principle, even though it is fully functional. The core of the circuit is an astable multivibrator with correcting diodes. Unlike a standard multivibrator, whose output pulses at low duty cycles look more like a sawtooth or triangle wave, this version with diodes provides a clear square wave without droop, which results in higher efficiency for the design. In other words, the linear regions where the power transistors would heat up are minimized, unlike in a classic multivibrator. In our case, in addition to the diodes, extra resistors have also been added, through which the multivibrator's capacitors are charged, while the collector diodes are isolated and do not participate in the charging process. The signal is taken from one side of the multivibrator and fed to an emitter follower built on a complementary pair of medium power transistors. When the generator output is at a low level, which happens when the multivibrator transistor is triggered, the upper transistor of the driver will turn on, and the positive supply voltage will flow through this transistor to the gates of the powerful MOSFET transistors, causing them to activate. When the multivibrator output is at a high level, which happens if the previously mentioned transistor is off and the high level is maintained by the specified resistor, the lower transistor of the driver will activate, shorting the gates of the MOSFETs to ground and thereby discharging them. The switches will be turned off. The diode in the gate circuit of the power MOSFETs is needed for faster discharge of the gate capacitance. These processes occur thousands of times per second, and adjusting the duty cycle by turning the variable resistor essentially changes the amount of time the power switches spend in one of the two states. The longer they are on, the greater the output power. The circuit also has reverse polarity protection. With the correct polarity, the positive from the power source goes to the gate of the input MOSFET, fully turning it on. The main power is supplied to the circuit precisely through the turned-on transistor. If the polarity is reversed, the negative voltage will go to the gate of the MOSFET, and it will not turn on. Therefore, the circuit will not receive power. When fully turned on, the channel resistance of this transistor is very low, and it hardly heats up at all. The circuit works perfectly and doesn't require any adjustment. If the load is high, the power components should be mounted on a heatsink. The third circuit is built on the popular NE555 timer, and is a push-button switch or an electronic start-stop button. Thanks to the use of an electromagnetic relay, you can turn any load on or off, including those connected to the mains. The chip operates as a flip-flop. When a high level is set at the output, the transistor will be triggered, and the coil of the electromagnetic relay is connected in its collector circuit. A low level at the output, accordingly, causes the transistor to shut off and disconnects the relay. The diode protects the circuit from the back EMF generated by the relay coil when the coil is de-energized. The button is a regular, non-latching type. Each subsequent press of the button changes the state of the timer's output. And there are 2 stable states, on or off. The other circuit is a simple step-up voltage converter, which outputs almost double the input voltage. The key feature of the circuit is the absence of wound components. No inductors, no transformers. Once again, the NE555 chip serves as the pulse generator, producing control pulses for the next stage. That stage is essentially an emitter follower, and it works as follows. When the timer output is low, the lower transistor is activated. Through the open transistor and diode VD1, the first capacitor will be charged almost up to the supply voltage, assuming, of course, you don't count the voltage drop across the transistor and diode junctions. At the same time, the second capacitor is also being charged. Next, a high level appears at the timer output, which instantly turns off the lower switch and turns on the upper one. In this case, the first capacitor, which is charged to almost the supply voltage, is connected in series with the power source through the open transistor, and the second capacitor will now be charged to double the supply voltage. The load capacity of this circuit is small, just tens of milliamps. But of course you can use more powerful transistors, preferably MOSFETs, replace the diodes and draw more current. You can also add multiplication stages to increase the output voltage. But the main problem with such circuits is their low efficiency. As the output voltage increases, you'll have to add a chain of diodes, which will cause losses. For this reason, such circuits haven't found widespread use. But the design does work. The next circuit, like all the others, is presented solely for informational purposes. It is the fairly powerful boost converter from 12 to 24 volts. I understand that building things like this with discrete components is pointless when there are ready-made specialized ICs available. But for learning purposes, it's fine. So, the left part of the circuit is a standard multivibrator with correcting diodes, just like in the PWM controller. From the collector of the right side, we get clear square pulses, which are fed to the input of the emitter follower. Well, I think everything is clear here. When the mentioned transistor is off, there is a high level at its collector, which is provided by the specified resistor. This high level will turn on the upper transistor of the driver. Through the open transistor, the positive supply will go to the gate of the powerful MOSFET switch and turn it on. The inductor, through the open switch, will be connected to the power supply, and energy will start accumulating in the inductor. At this moment, the polarity on the inductor is as follows. When the multivibrator switches, there will be a low level at the collector, which will trigger the PNP transistor of the driver. Through the open transistor, the gate of the MOSFET will be shorted to ground, which will turn it off. There is also a reverse diode in the gate circuit for rapid discharge of the gate capacitance. But it can be omitted since the operating frequency of the multivibrator is already quite low, about 7 kHz. When the switch is closed, the inductor releases the stored energy as a self-induction spike. The self-induction EMF voltage is significantly higher than the supply voltage. Moreover, the self-induction EMF has the opposite polarity. At this moment, the inductor has this polarity. Next, the capacitor is charged and the load is powered through the diode. During the pauses, when the transistor is open, the load is powered by the energy stored in the capacitor. The circuit is also equipped with voltage stabilization. The output voltage is set by the Zener diode. The specified resistor limits the current through this Zener diode. When the voltage across the capacitor reaches the breakdown voltage of the Zener diode, it will trigger, instantly opening the lower transistor, which in turn will open the lower transistor of the driver, and that will short the gate to ground until the voltage on the capacitor drops below the Zener diode stabilization voltage. In other words, stabilization here is achieved by skipping pulses. It's not the best method due to its harsh operation and noise, but it has a right to exist. In the simulation, you can clearly see nice pulses at the gate, the voltage across the load increases, and as soon as it reaches the thresholds, the pulse suppressor kicks in. During operation, you may notice noise in the gate circuit, and that's normal for this kind of circuit. The magnitude of these ripples is extremely small. The inductor is rated for a current of 4 to 5 amps, and is wound on a yellow-white powdered iron core, which was taken from the output filter of a computer power supply. Overall, the circuit works. It should be powered by a voltage of at least 10 or 11 volts. You can use a lower voltage, but in that case, you'll need to recalculate some components of the multivibrator and use MOSFETs with a logic level gate threshold. Again, I understand that some of the circuits shown here are outdated, and it's unlikely anyone will actually build them for real-world use. But still, it's always useful to know how this works. And for everyone else, there's AliExpress, which is killing the DIY electronics hobby, to help you out. And with that, this video is coming to an end. Once again, let me remind you about my 2 other channels, where I regularly post videos about electronics. As always, the links to them are in the description. That's all from me. As always, this was Kazyanov Ka with you, and see you next time. Bye.